So let me kind of land the plane from Star Trek, since that might have seemed a little far out there. I want to ground us in some research before we talk about, or before we hear from the panelists. Talking about wearable technologies, the Harris Poll recently did a study among US adults, and there was some good news and some bad news. The good news is that overall, nearly half of Americans are at least a little interested in owning a watch or wristband type wearable tech device. 46% of Americans are at least a little interested. The bad news is that roughly the same number believe that wearable tech is just a fad and that it is not likely to become common the way smartphones have. And 47% don't believe that wearable tech could be useful for their lives. Now that syncs with research that was conducted by the Consumer Electronics Association, this kind of niche status of wearables. They did a study again of US adults, and again, good news, ownership of dedicated wearable fitness devices tripled from 2012 to 2013, but that's from 3% to 9%. So we still are talking about a pretty small percentage. And what was interesting is that daily usage of these wearable devices is lowest among devices with the highest penetration. So pedometer ownership is at 37%, but only 27% of those people use it daily. Same thing, heart rate monitor ownership is at 20%, but only a quarter of those people use it daily. So what's an aspiring wearable tech company to do to attract buyers and then to get them to continue to use their products? That's what this panel is all about. So I would like to give each of the panelists an opportunity to introduce themselves, their companies, and their products. So we'll go ahead and start to my left with Jeff.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Jeff. I'm from Basis, and Basis is a combination of a wearable device and apps that you can use to interact with the data that comes from these mobile devices. As is pointed out, this is a very exciting and busy space. There's lots of new fitness trackers coming all the time, as this panel is a good example of. So to think about Basis in this space, there's really two areas of difference that I'll just focus on for the sake of brevity. We're a multi-sensor device. We've got 5 sensors running all the time, so we can get past just tracking steps, which many devices do quite well. We're trying to get at real physiology. So how is your body responding to those activities in your lifestyle? Heart rate, perspiration, skin temperature, things like that. And that allows us to get insights that you can't get off of just tracking motion, like sleep staging, which we've just announced, or resting heart rate. So that's one area of fundamental difference, trying to be more insightful with the data that we get. And the other is, our belief is that this is not a tracking category, despite the name that this category normally goes by. We think this is a behavior change category. And so the other way that we're different is trying to extrapolate all this data, abstract all of this data up to what are the actions that I can really take in my busy life, my busy schedule, to make a difference. So we call that healthy habits, but it's essentially small routines done regularly that makes a difference over time.
Isaiah. Thanks, Jeff. Isaiah Kazavinsky. I run the sports business at MC10. I did play 8 years in the NFL, so there's no way I thought I'd be on a fashion meets technology panel ever in my life.
Although we did have you model last week.
Yes, the ugliest model of all time. So MC10 takes high-performance electronics and thins them and allows them to stretch and bend and twist with the human body. And really, when you think about MC10, think about us innovating on form factor, taking that clunky, rigid box. The idea of taking a device where you kind of have to put it on you and it's rigid and you'll put up with it. We're trying to take that away and looking at gathering all different types of metrics that you can possibly want to look at: hydration, temperature, EMG, EKG, EEG, so brain, heart, and really taking that and making it seamless, taking that barrier of wearability away. So you really don't have to think, to be able to wear the technology. You just put it on, or it interacts seamlessly in your daily life. And we work with really big brands to be able to bring our electronics to market, and we really see this is where technology is going in the long run.
Cool, great, Jason.
Thanks. I'm Jason with Jaybird. Thanks, Jed. We're the leader in wireless Bluetooth headphones for sport. That's kind of where we got our start, and we're moving into the wearables category. And we've put, we're not just coming in. We've put a lot of work and effort into it over the last 2 years. And for us, same thing. We want it to be seamless, but it's got to be meaningful. Judd was hit on earlier. It's, there's a lot with steps and all that, but it's got to be more meaningful. It's got to be seamless into your life where you don't have to think about it, but you know it's there, you trust it. It's got to look good. So.
Great. How about you, Dave?
Dave Monahan, CEO of FitLinks. Just a quick background on us. Think of us as an enterprise health and fitness technology company. We supply technology to other companies, and we embed it inside other solutions. So very much like what's been said a few times here is we believe it's got to be seamless and part of people's lifestyle. It's got to be in the background. And I'd ask you, how many devices do I currently have on? And the answer is 5, although you might not see any of them. They're on my body, and that's what we believe is this category needs to become invisible for it to be mass market. And what we do is we work with healthcare insurers, healthcare providers, consumer application providers, wellness providers, and we embed our technology inside their solutions so the user experience is with the brand that they're interacting with from a health perspective or a wellness perspective or a fitness perspective. You won't hear about FitLinks. I always say we're the most popular wearables company that nobody knows about.
Okay, hello. Happy Tuesday, everyone. I'm Ruth Thompson. I lead the consumer business at Cambridge Consultants. We're a product design and development organisation, so effectively offering outsourced engineering services to our clients. There's about 400 of us across all range of engineering and scientific disciplines, and we provide full product development services right through from concept through to transfer to manufacture, or augmenting client skill sets themselves. We do a lot in the sports and fitness area. It's a really good match for our skills in connected system development. Work with a whole range of well-known sporting goods brands, for example, Adidas, as well as startups. So in a nutshell, what we do is help bring ideas into reality.
Great. Well, thanks for those introductions. And actually, I first wanted to talk about something that, Dave, you said, and I'm wondering how many of the panelists would agree with you on. So the question I have is about this invisibility point. Should wearable tech be visible, kind of worn, designed and worn as a fashion statement? Or should it be invisible, seamless, kind of integrated so that no one knows that you're wearing it? And so I kind of just wanted to have maybe a mini debate. We could go down the line and tell me which side you're on, or maybe you're on both sides, but and then say why.
All right, well, it's a great question. Yeah, I think the practical answer is it depends. I think it depends on the use case. I mean, I can clearly see that there are wearables that solve problems that you don't want other people to know that you're solving, and those need to be things that you can hide away. But I think the more inspiring answer is that it should be visible in many places. It should be conspicuous. What you wear says something about you. And I think in our experience, we've seen 2 things that are important. This can work as a positive symbol. It can work as a sort of positive status icon. And I don't mean just a fashion statement. It can be that too. But I mean really a personal identity statement. What's important to you, the fact that you're doing your part, you're looking for smart tools to manage your health or whatever the wearable helps you do. And I think that could be inspiring. And then as part of that too, what we have seen is just the notion of wearing the technology where you can see it every day, and you know that other people can see it, moves all of the sort of health implications of it much more forward in your consciousness. So what we have seen is wearing, even devices that do the same thing that mobile apps can do, wearing it moves the whole thing more forward in your consciousness. You see much more adherence to the program. You see people paying much more attention than they do to the apps that are tucked away in their pockets. So I think there's some power in it being conspicuous.
I agree. I mean, I'd reiterate that point as well. What I firmly believe in kind of how we think about things at MC10 is you want to give optionality to the end user. And we currently, being able to, on the same point, being able to wear technology, have everybody see it, kind of show it off, and show what you're doing, and you're an active person, however, whatever the use case may be, is important. I also think to have the option to not show that at all. And if you think about it, and this is kind of digital healthy, but digital health side where you think about you seeing a doctor and you're gathering information, you wouldn't leave the doctor's door open and be able to kind of broadcast that to the world. I'm saying this is what I'm trying to do. So I think being able to do that and really looking at apparel integration, or being able to use a patch to be able to gather information in a place that no one can see is really important.
No, I'm with you on that. You know, we all said we want it to be seamless, you know, but to me it's, and to us at Jaybird, you know, it's, you look down, you want to see it, you know, it's like you said, it's inspiring, it's motivating. But on the fashion side of things, you know, you see so many people now that have put away their $5,000 watch and they're wearing one of their, you know, their bands, because to them it's like, almost like a status symbol. Like they want people to know, like, you know, hey, I'm getting after it. You know, like Women's Health just posted like the top 5 things you know you're a fitness snob, and one of them was you wear one of your bands to a, you know, a masquerade ball or something. So, you know, I see, you know, there's some legs to that, and I would agree to that. You know, like you look good, you feel good, you know, you feel like you can conquer the world. So.
I'm going to go a little bit different direction. I think there's 2 markets. I think there's one market which is more about status symbol, and I want to show off what I have. And you see that in a lot of technology and fashion and jewelry sort of markets. And you know, if you look at currently the people who adopted these products skew higher income, higher quantified selfers, more tech adopters. What we're seeing, we, like I said, we focus a lot on healthcare providers, insurers, wellness providers. Most people can't afford these types of products. They also want it to disappear from their lives. They're not trying to show off that they're obese or they have diabetes or, you know, they have high blood pressure or hypertension. They want to do it discreetly. And so I think, again, I think there's 2 markets. I think there's one market where people want it as a status symbol. I think there's another market where people want it just integrated into their lifestyle.
I think it should be visible, but I think it's first worth thinking about how this question's been phrased makes you think that the wearable technology is the device, whereas actually the device is just part of the system. You know, and if you think about it, you know, if you think maybe, you know, a sensor-based wearable technology, you know, the device is containing probably the sensors, but that's got the algorithms on it to process the data, but then it's probably communicating to another hub, possibly a smartphone, and possibly the data stored elsewhere in the cloud. So the device is just part of the system. And actually, if you think about it, if you could deliver that benefit to the consumer without the device, wouldn't you do that? So actually, the device is just a necessary evil.
Yeah, a means to an end.
Yeah, as a means to an end. So that said, it is a necessary evil, so you've got to have it, so why not make the most of it from a branding and design perspective? So that's why I'd say it should be visible.
Very interesting. Dave, I want to pick up on the point that you just made about markets, and one of the things that strikes me is that this question about visible versus not, or fashionable versus function, is changing as these devices are becoming more mainstream. The needs and desires of the early adopters may be very different from the mainstream consumers. So the question I have is, you know, how do we engage the mainstream consumer with these wearable devices, and does visibility or invisibility help or hurt that?
Yeah, so what we've seen is there's 3 primary things you need to get right for large adoption. And when we do deployments across 50,000, you know, populations, those types of things, 10,000, 50,000. We even have one that's 100,000. And what you see in the broad population, so there's people to the right and to the left of this, but I'm talking sort of what the middle of the bell curve is looking for. I think there's 3 things. It's, does it fit in my lifestyle? So can it just become part of me? And it's not an extra burden for me to use this product. And can I blend it in with my lifestyle and not think about it? The second one is it relevant? We integrate, like I said, we integrate completely and natively and seamlessly into partners' applications. So you're engaging with Spark People is one of our application providers here. You engage with the Spark People brand, or you engage with the healthcare provider, and that's your experience. So, and their program is something tailored to you. So I might be dealing with obesity or diabetes or whatever. That's what's relevant to me. It's not the product. It's not the device. The device is a means to an end. It's just, is this program relevant to me? And it has lots of things outside of a device. There's lots of things that are including behavioral change, which is probably the most important component of it. And then the third piece, which we think is really important, is affordability. So when you are deploying things to 50,000 people in a population, price makes a big difference. So again, relevance, lifestyle integration, and affordability, we think are the 3 most important.
Do other people have thoughts on this? You know, as we are moving into the mainstream, how do we market these products so that they are more appealing?
Yeah, I feel strongly that barrier to wearability, where you don't have to think about it and it's easily integrated into your life, so that you can use it day after day after day, and you brought a couple of quantitative pieces to that where people have the device and they don't wear it, and I think that happens right now. It's happening a lot, and the design rules as they are for consumer electronics are based on rigid materials that you have to be put in a box right now, and to be able to change that and integrate into apparel is going to be important, and have that overlap. Have those design rules overlap between apparel and electronics, and learn from each other.
It's got to be simple. If it's not simple, that the UI and the UX has to be nice and clean, and they don't want to think about it. If you got to think about it, they're going to just put it in the top drawer and they're done with it. So
I think this question relates to how you started, which is how many people have these things, and how fast is it growing, and among people who do have these things, how often do they wear it? And I think our thesis on this space. We agree that to some extent the device is a means to an end. It's about getting the data, and the data is the powerful part, and the user experience you build on that. So I think that's important, but I think as part of that, we don't imagine, even though we make a wearable device, we don't imagine that the mainstream middle America is sitting around just waiting for the day when they get to wear technology, right? That's not what, a goal that my mom or my sister or my cousin has, right? So I think then the question is, if we're going to ask people to wear technology, then we've got to figure out what can we deliver born out of the fact that you're wearing it that fundamentally can't be done any other way, right? To the point of, if you could do it any other way, well, wouldn't you do that? If you could do it on a phone, wouldn't you do that? So I think the first challenge is, how do we make wearables essential? And you make them essential by doing important things with them that can't be done in any other way. Now, our particular answer on that is we put sensors in contact with your body to measure physiology and other things, but there are other answers to that question too, and I think that's how we start making these things essential to people. And if it's essential and it's important enough, then people will want them. And then the second challenge becomes, well, how do you package it in a way that makes it stylish enough, fashionable enough, the right statement about you, pretty enough that people will wear it in their everyday life with whatever event they're going to, whatever outfit they're wearing. Right. And so I think the fashion part of it is secondary. It's important, but it's secondary to finding what makes it essential.
Right. And actually, that's a great lead into my next question. And Ruth, that was something I wanted to ask you. What functionality, what data, what algorithms distinguish or should distinguish wearable technology versus just other devices that people have? Like, what should we be delivering through this usage interface?
Well, by wearables, by definition, they're either on your body or on your clothes. So the opportunity for making it really personal experience is much greater than if, for example, with other fitness technology, if it's on the bike or something, it's a lot easier when it's on your person to make it much more personal. So whether you're gathering sensor information or whether you're directly, so heart rate, whatever, or whether maybe you're calculating something like calories or sleep quality, the ability to be able to feed back something personal and give someone actionable information about themselves is really interesting. I think also, a lot of technology at the moment is about performance monitoring and being able to look at how someone's body reacts. But I think an interesting trend that's going to happen is in teaching technique. And if you think of how wearable technologies, if you could have that integrated into your clothing, how your body's moving, couldn't you use wearables to be able to teach someone how to do a particular movement? How do you do that excellent, tennis shot, that golf shot, how to move really, really well? Where at the moment, professional coaching is only accessible to the elite. What could wearables bring to be able to teach technique? And I think that's going to be an interesting trend we see.
And I'll see how teaching you how the proper way to sit, to stand up, to move, things like that as well. Yeah. Jason, I want to talk a little bit about wireless and the developments in wireless and how they have impacted the wearable market. I thought you would have a unique perspective on that.
In my opinion, everything's going wireless. It's like if you got to plug in to anything nowadays, it seems like, it's archaic and people want nothing to do with it. So to me, it's a simple answer. Like it's convenience more than anything, and that's what people are expecting. So,
are there specific developments in wireless that you think are particularly important?
Not right offhand, to be honest with you.
I think Bluetooth Low Energy, or 4.0, to me is a breakthrough, so that anybody can offload through a smartphone or a mobile device, or in a lot of cases now even PCs and laptops. So to me, that we're finally getting to a standardization of wireless where it's on every device out there, and these devices now can talk through, devices that people already own. That to me is very important, probably the most important breakthrough. If I would ask for one more breakthrough, so I think Apple has it right. On the Android side, it's a bit of a mess, and it's lots of different standards out there on how it's deployed. So a standardization on Android would be a very big breakthrough for the market.
Amen. Amen.
I agree. Just to reiterate that as well is, changing very little about your life, or as little as possible, and still gathering this treasure trove of data is important.
I think there's two seemingly mundane things that are huge enablers that do exactly that. One of them is wireless. And I agree that anything's not wireless seems archaic these days, but even beyond that, just it has to be seamless. The other one that maybe is less obvious and seemingly mundane, but hugely important, is actually battery technology. Battery technology may be one of the greatest limiting factors in wearable technology today. People, if it's going to be seamless in your life, if it's going to really fit in your lifestyle, if you're not going to have to adapt your life around the wearable device, then it can't be something that you've got to charge every day, right? Despite the fact that we've gotten used to that with smartphones. So mundane and yet hugely important. And not moving as fast, not progressing as fast as other technologies.
And if I could just jump in there, because I think they're interrelated. I think the wireless
Very
and
much,
the,
yeah.
so battery technology, I think they've reached the end of physics on it right now. And maybe somebody's going to get a breakthrough somewhere down the road, but it's going to be a while before something comes. I think what's interesting is some of these wireless technologies, and we, in our company actually, next to sensors and ability to monitor things like activity, our next expertise are probably as good of an expertise as wireless, and a low power efficient wireless, and being able to get data off devices through mobile devices and not impacting either the battery life of the device very much or what's collecting the data. So I would say this group and all wearables need to have an expertise around low power wireless.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Isaiah, I want to go back to something that you had said before when you were talking about the design rules between electronics and apparel. And just curious, thinking about the fashion world, thinking about the technology world, what can these two industries that previously have been so unrelated but now are becoming so much more integrated and dependent, what can these two industries learn from each other, and how can we make that learning happen? How can we make that integration happen?
Yeah, so the design rules as they are, if you think about the design rules for electronics and design rules for large apparel companies, the end output, both of those being iconic things that you want, is something that as we move forward and you think about conformal electronics and the ability to be able to thin them and take the conventional design rules away from the way we've always known them in electronics and marry those with design rules in apparel. So apparel, what are you going to focus on? Suppleness, performance, a whole list of things just around apparel, then apparel integration into that with electronics. But electronics is price, performance of the electronics, but still tying that to what we've always known about electronics and design rules for that. So being able to take the electronics outside of that box and being able to integrate and overlap those design rules in a way, in an environment where you aren't hamstrung, you aren't handcuffed in any way. Although there's always going to be some type of handcuffs. We talk about battery being an issue, but that's directly correlated to the richness of the data you're trying to gather or doing it in a more efficient way. So you want this kind of this sandbox to be able to play around in to get bigger, and we really feel that's what we're doing, and allowing that design freedom for large companies to really spread their wings.
Do any of you currently or could see yourselves in the future hiring a fashion designer, jewelry designer, someone from that world as a consultant to help you? I mean, that seems to be a great way to tap into their expertise. I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I mean, we've done a little bit of that already. We've actually, so the Basis band is designed so that you can easily customize the straps to make it look the way you want it to look. They just kind of snap off. So we have a line of these things, and we partnered with a couple of artists, one in San Francisco and one in New York, who are famous for their own style of art, and we had them sort of interpret that art for the basis bands. And then we did a limited edition of those things. So yeah, I think there are ways that you can tap into that inspiration that's out there, and borrow it from people for whom it is their core competency, instead of necessarily building it internally.
Given my position, we won't be doing that, but we will be enabling other companies who might want to do that. So we're really focused on the technology itself and making the technology embeddable inside other types of devices. And I see our partners investing
Yes.
on the design side, not us.
Yeah, okay.
I think what's important is it's so multidisciplinary, isn't it? You know, our wearable tech. You know, you need the designing skills, you need those creative people, you need the electronics capabilities, you need the
We're also
algorithms.
crazy.
Right?
You need the mechanical design. You need all of those skills all together. And I think that's lots of what we bring in our team. And people will think very differently about it. If you give like an artist some of the tools that you guys are creating, they'll start playing with it and think what they can do. If you look at other maybe parallel industries, you know, look at what's happening with 3D printing, and look what the fashion industry is doing with that. You know, effectively giving them kind of tools to play with.
Sure, sure. Okay, I have one more question for these guys, but then we'll open it up for questions from you all. So if you want to kind of be thinking about if there's a question you have, let me ask, I'm curious as to where you think the next wearable tech is going to come from. Is it going to come from a large technology company, maybe a health and fitness digital startup, a CE company, sporting goods brand, fashion brand? Just if you could look into a crystal ball, you know, where do you think it's going to come from and why? What do you think, you know, what does that particular type of company bring to the party that others might not?
I think something that will be important from them is people who understand how to offer a service. You know, because it isn't just, you know, it's a product and a service. So I think something that might trip some companies up is that, you know, there's, you know, switching from a product business model, switching into product and service, and I think that would be something to watch. Also, route to market. I mean, where do you buy these devices and systems? I mean, that's something, you know, Apple's benefiting now that you can buy them in the store. Right. If you go into, you know, a sporting goods shop, you know, where are they? You know, where are they next to? Are they next to the T-shirts? Are they next to, you know, where will they be? And I think thinking about route to market will show who's going to be successful.
Yeah, you're seeing it right now. Like the big companies, everybody's kind of jumping on the bandwagon. But to us, it's got to, you know, you got to offer something more meaningful. And I mean that aside from, you know, the beautiful product that we've designed, the wonderful app. You know, the brand, to me, you gotta have something meaningful, something people can grasp onto that's greater than the actual product or experience. And they want to be a part of something greater.
So you need a consumer marketer.
For sure.
And I've personally, over the last 3 years, it's been really amazing to see the large brands embrace innovation coming from outside their own companies. And it's unbelievable how much steam that has picked up, and it's a great thing, right? To be able to you know, tap this vast amount of innovation, not only in this country but all over the world, and not just kind of turn a blind eye to that. And you know, I think that's going to rapidly develop technology in a way that we just have not seen before. And you know, you talk about companies that previously just did not have innovation teams, did not have, you know, all these things that have popped up over the last couple of years. And you know, almost every single major brand has to have an innovation team. And that is that external looking, I'm saying, and being able to look at that technology.
I just want to get a quick comment in. To me, to answer the question sort of bluntly, as far as where is it going to come from, it's going to come from Apple. I mean, there's.
You heard it here.
I mean, they're looking to the space, obviously. I mean, everybody knows in this room. But there's, for me, the feedback, I think it's going to come from every group you talked about. I think to be successful, though, you got to do something different. And I've had the saying for a long time. I heard it early in my career, which is don't get too close to the sun. So I would expect the big guys to be coming out with something that's going to be sort of the common denominator in this, but then there'll be other sensors communicating through those sort of common denominator products, much like right now we go through the mobile device.
I mean, not to skirt the question, but I think it's going to come from everywhere. I mean, we're seeing it here at this show, right? It's big companies, it's little companies. I will observe a couple of things. I think when it comes to the big companies, I think many of them are talking to smaller companies to find the innovation that they then integrate They leverage their distribution systems. They leverage their brands when those are important. That tells me that even the large companies are looking to smaller companies, specialists in these areas, to find the innovation that they can then populate. And in other cases, the large companies are entering this space leveraging some sort of heritage expertise, particularly mobile, and they come into the wearable space with very much a mobile lens, a mobile phone lens on the space. And that's why you end up with a definition of smartwatches like we have seen so far, which is largely a duplication of the features that are already on your phone, rather than finding what is the additive thing that we can do because it's being worn that can't be done by the phone. So I think we need to rely on small companies to bring the innovation to the large companies, and I think we need to inspire the large companies to not just simply operate with their established expertise and bring that to wearables, but to really figure out what wearables should be doing uniquely.
Great. Questions from the audience? Yes, here, actually, let's do this.
Careful.
That was almost scary.
Hi. So shipping hardware is hard, right? There's lots of things, lots of challenges. What are some of the biggest challenges that you've encountered, and how have you overcome them?
Since you're looking at me, I'll quickly respond. Early on, we've been in the space for a long time. We've been in it over 10 years. Early on, it was the quality control of devices and hardware and software and getting it all work together and doing it in a way that you have high yield rates and low defects in the field. It's a hurdle to make them low cost, high volume, and doing everything you want them to do. And and I think this probably, I don't know for sure about everyone in this panel, but I assume these products are pretty much all coming out of China, and managing the whole supply chain. That to me was the most challenging thing. That was 8 or 9 years ago we dealt with that, but that was a big challenge.
Hi, Sebastian Wells, CEO of Granularity. What role do you believe additive manufacturing will play in revolutionizing customization in creating wearables? i.e. 3D printing.
I'm sorry, repeat that last part.
What role do you believe that additive manufacturing, i.e. 3D printing, will play in allowing hyper-customization in wearable technology, i.e. allowing individuals to create products specifically for the shape of their body or whatever customization they desire?
So I think it's going to accelerate it greatly, right? I mean, if you have access to 3D printing, which is obviously becoming more and more ubiquitous as we know it, being able to have that and put it in the hands of more people, innovation is going to roll off that, and it has to. You have a bigger pie of people thinking about the same type of problems, you're going to get better ideas. Simple as that.
Yeah, and everybody wants something that's personal to them.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes it more meaningful that way. So the more you can customize it to the end user, the better.
I'll add to it just briefly. I think 3D printing or additive manufacturing, I think as long as we're thinking about it as a manufacturer, the case is true today that most of these devices are made in Asia. It's sort of centralized manufacturing. I think 3D printing allows us to distribute production, distribute manufacturing. I think it allows us to move it much closer to the end user. I think that just fundamentally enables closer to that particular market's idea of personalization, customization, or that individual consumer's idea. So it's what I call late binding, right? So that later in the process, we can bind what that product looks like, what color it is, what form factor it is, the better.
Great, we have a question here.
This question is probably specific to Isaiah. How far are we away from professional athletes, specifically NFL players, using wearable technologies for safety reasons, concussions in the NFL and things like that?
We are on the cusp. The NFL has been pretty, I don't know if they've been pretty public about it, but it is public knowledge that they are right now currently testing devices to measure force of impact to the head. Our first commercial product was the check light, measured force of impact to the head and binned it into a system that was actionable, et cetera. But being able to have the NFL open up about this, look at it, go through a validation process to vet the technology, to see the efficacy of, based on some type of benchmark, which is essentially what everybody up here has done, is close. And, it's a shame it wasn't done this year. It should be done next year. And that's going to trickle down to a whole other separate set of issues in this country, not only to the NFL, but NHL, other sports, which is, what do you do with the data and who gets to look at the data? And on the players union side, the NFLPA side, they don't. If I say Isaiah's going into his 6th year and I'm a free agent, yet you have a profile on me of how many hits I've taken to my head and the impact of those hits, the severity of those impacts. And you have baseline data for each position, running backs, linebackers, et cetera. This is how many impacts we guess it might take before they're kind of pooped out, just impacts on the body in general. You can start to see how that could start to take the legs out from underneath the players and the players union. So there's a pretty big hurdle around that, and making that data blind is important. But not only taking data where you're talking about impact to the head, but taking data, gathering, not only the 2 hours at practice or 3 hours at a game, but how does that complete picture look for that athlete, the elite athlete, and then trickle that down to everybody else? How does that complete picture look of how you're taking care of yourself? And when you're off your normal, whatever metric that is, why? And just taking a proactive approach to the way you've never looked at health before, instead of this episodic approach. But that's going to trickle from the elite athlete all the way down.
I think we have time for one more question. Okay. Hold on 1 second. I got heels on. It's a long day.
Carlton Warshman with Brewer Science. When you talk about wearables, the human body is your real estate. So my kind of question is, with the fashion, how do you prioritize your real estate? Where do you target?
The human body is real estate, so how do you prioritize? We only have 2 wrists, or most of us only have 2 wrists.
So,
I mean,
go ahead. Actually, I'll let you go.
No, go. You win. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So I think it all, for us, it depends on having design freedom to put it wherever you want, and then what type of data are you trying to get, and what part of the body you want to focus on to get the data in the best way possible. That is, again, goes over all the points. It's not a pain in the butt, and it's easily integrated in your life, et cetera. So
I agree. What we're focused on is software and algorithms that allow it to go anywhere. And it's up to the individual to decide where they want to put it. That, to us, is the most important piece of this, is to take that question out, actually, not make that an issue.
Make it easier for it to go anywhere. I mean, there's a reason why people are trying to move from heart rate straps to going on the wrist. It's easier for it to be there, and it's easier to integrate.
And where you want to put it might be where I don't want to.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Well, I will just add to that, though, that I think a major element that needs to be considered as part of the design, where you're designing it for, is the use case. I mean, we designed for the wrist specifically because it's just a really great interaction point. It's very easy to check data very quickly. You've got a free hand to navigate the data. To go back to the very beginning of this conversation, it's conspicuous, so you can see it, people can see it. It has the motivational impact. So I think, in addition to ideally it can go anywhere, one needs to think about really what is the use case that you're optimizing for, and learn from previous use cases. I mean, people don't want to wear chest straps 24/7. Despite the fact that's a great place to get heart rate, people just will not wear chest straps 24/7, so one needs to keep those things in mind while we're designing and really optimize for what you think is the idealized use case.
Great. Well, Ruth, Dave, Jason, Isaiah, Jeff, thank you very much. Let's give them a round of applause.